Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the UK Sangha Call. That's every week. And check the chat for what day it's going to be because impermanence, my schedule changes. But I'm here with my really good friend Alexander. It always brightens up my day to see my noble friend and enjoy company together and discuss some good Dhamma. So it's like there's something a little bit unique about these types of interactions and gettings-togethers because normally when people get together in a group, they're usually gossiping about somebody or they're complaining about something or something to that nature. So that those types of friendships aren't really beneficial to the people engaging in them. So like that's why the Buddha recommends to make friends with wise people and spend time in wise company because monkey see, monkey do, right? It's gonna, hey Grant, welcome. Good to
Hey,
have you on.
hey
Yeah, we're
guys.
just talking about how the people that you associate yourself with is going to inevitably have an effect on you, like on how you view things, on the kind of like patterns and habits that you adopt. So this is why the Buddha recommends spending time with wise company and wise friendships. Because if you're spending time with a fool, like foolish types of people, um, it's going to rub off on you. So if you're going to the bar and hanging out with a bunch of alcoholics, the chances are you're going to become an alcoholic as well. So it's just kind of a common sense approach to like who we decide to spend our time with, and I wasn't just trying to mention negative things or be a downer, but I was mentioning how special these types of interactions are when we come together on these Sangha calls because the only thing we talk about is Dhamma. The only thing we talk about is wholesome, and this has an effect on how we feel. So if we're gossiping and complaining about stuff with other people and just kind of using other people to justify our own pity parties and victim complexes, you're not going to end up feeling good about that. And those friendships wouldn't aren't really beneficial to somebody who's a sincere practitioner. So a common thing for many people who start on the spiritual path is they really struggle with loneliness a lot of the times because they find themselves losing a lot of the friends that they used to have because the differentiation and ideals and values. You know, you stop caring so much as much about like politics and things of this nature that just create more conflict, you know, and you start caring more about harmony and happiness experienced in the moment. So, so if we're gonna get together, why waste our time being Debbie Downers? Why not and appreciate the friendship that we have here and just appreciate life as it happens? Okay, so that was just me going on kind of like a spontaneous sidetrack. If anyone has anything they ever want to jump in to the conversation, feel free to cut me off at any point. But I do, if there's not anything you guys want to talk about in particular, I do have a sutta prepared that I was going to read.
I would love to hear the Sutta, Scott. Grant, do you have
Okay.
anything you want to talk? I would love to hear the
No,
Sutta.
I'm just here to say hi and have a listen. So yeah, let's do that.
Okay, cool. Let's do the sutta then. All right, so this is from the Anguttara Nikaya, and it's 3.68. For those who want to read along, I posted a link in the chat. And it's titled Followers of Other Religions. Okay. Mendicants, if wanderers of other religions were to ask, there are these three things. What three? Greed, hate, and delusion. These are the three things. What's the difference between them? How would you answer them? Okay, so one of the main tenets of the teachings of the Buddha is that the three big kahunas, or the three major things that poison the mind of someone or creates psychological suffering for someone and other people, is greed, hatred, and delusion. So, I mean, this isn't really that much different than many other religions out there. So, I mean, most sincere spiritual traditions practice not hating people, for one. So getting rid of hate, getting rid of greed. So all the things that cause conflicts and like suffering for people in their lives and for other people. So I mean, this is like a, I mean, this is pretty perennial here, but the Buddha really categorizes it in these three things. If there's a hindrance or a defilement or some sort of agitation, it is only because of one of these three things. And that's like the efficiency of it. But I'll continue with the sutta. Our teachings are rooted in the Buddha. He is our guide and our refuge. Sir, may the Buddha himself please clarify the meaning of this. The mendicants will listen and remember it. When mendicants, listen and apply your mind well, I will speak. Yes, sir, they replied. The Buddha said this. Mendicants, if wanderers of other religions were to ask, there are these three things. What three? Greed, hatred, and delusion. Okay, so I'm gonna just skip a little bit through and paraphrase because it often repeats itself. But essentially, they ask, what's the difference between those three things? And then the difference is stated to be greed is mildly blameworthy, but slow to fade away. Okay, so greed is not as blameworthy as the other ones, but it's slow to fade away. It's lingering. It's hard to get rid of greed. We want things. Things are appealing. The comforts of life and all the things that are shining, like shine. Ooh, I want that shiny thing, right? Like shining as in psychologically shining. Like if you look at a sparkly gem, why does that have value? It's just a rock, right? It's value because it's shiny. So like people attribute values to things because of the appearance of them. Um, but anyways, it's it's not that bad, but it's slow to fade away. And then the next one is hate is very blameworthy, but quick to fade away. So if you notice someone who's experiencing hate, that kind of tends to bite a little bit more. It doesn't feel good to hate, right? So hate may like explode in someone, but quickly go away. I've seen videos of like people who are like Ku Klux Klan members, and there's an African American who just went to talk to these people and just straight up have a conversation of, hey, I'm a normal person. And he actually ended up making friends with some of those Ku Klux Klan members, and they stopped being racist. So hate is really blameworthy, right? It's a really bad thing, but hate can go away quickly. It's a quicker process to let go of hate than it is greed or like desire for things, right? Um, and then finally, the last one. So delusion is the ultimate. It's delusion is the ultimate snare. So that's why delusion is said to be very blameworthy and it's slow to fade away. So it's hard to wake up out of the patterns of our own minds. And it's the most blameworthy. So that's what, so out of all these three things, the Buddha is emphasizing delusion as the most difficult and sneaky one. The trickery of delusion, right? That's what Mara in the Buddhist cosmology is a personification of this, of delusion. Mara wants to keep you like playing tricks on you, keep you deluded, keep you enchanted and infatuated with the game of life or the show of life. It wants to keep you like thinking any of this really has any substantial existence or matters at all, when it's just gonna be here one moment, gone the next. If you don't if you don't realize how quickly life goes by, how quickly aging and death is really going to come, that this very body that's speaking right now is going to die, then you're going to fall under the illusion that it isn't going to die. And you're going to be subconsciously thinking and feeling and defending your sense of self, the destination of this body, as if it's a permanent thing. So that's the main delusion, is the delusion of inherent permanent selfhood, or saying selfhood can be misunderstood by people who don't understand no self. So it's better to say inherent, permanent, separate selfhood. So people may misunderstand selfhood as like there's nothing here at all. Like that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is there's no separate self from the rest of reality. It's all just one continuous unfoldment of causes and conditions, like a big game of dominoes. It's all dependently arising, and it's all arising according to the same laws and intelligence. It's just that this intelligence, you can call it God, but it's not a sky daddy. It's not a being, right? It's not a person. Like people will see God as they see themselves. If you see yourself as a separate self, of course you're going to project that onto God and see God as like some sort of deity, right? But any authentic mystic of a even Christian mystics or whatnot realize God as that which is like unfathomable, formless, ever present, like the intelligence by which all of this is created. So it's not really a person. Uh, but anyways, I keep going on a sidetrack. Let me get back to the sutta. Yeah, delusion. Okay. And if they ask, what is the cause? What is the reason why greed arises? And once arisen, it increases and grows. You should say, the beautiful feature of things. When you apply the mind irrationally to the beautiful feature of things, greed arises. And once arisen, it increases and grows. This is the cause, this is the reason why greed arises. And once arisen, it increases and grows. Okay, so this is the thing, is that greed is going to arise just because of how quickly the mind is and our instinctual drives, right? But you have a choice whether you decide it increases and grows or kind of fades away, right? If you're at the beach, you see a beautiful young girl. You can decide where your eyes, seeing them once is inevitable, right? That's just going to happen. It's going to be a brain reaction just to look, but you decide where your gaze is going to go after that, right? Whether the infatuation is going to grow or not. You could be like, "Oh, beautiful girl. Okay, continue on my way." But if you direct the mind irrationally into that enchantment of like the appearance of it, then it will just grow and grow, and you will be in a state of suffering. It doesn't make you happy. It just makes you in a state of lack, a state of desire, right? So I mean, this isn't like a preachy thing. Like this is just for happiness. I mean, I'm not saying that like you can't appreciate like beautiful things, but um, for the sake of whether or not it's truly appreciating or you're lusting after something, is for you to decide. Right? There's a difference between appreciating and desiring. But I'll
It's the
continue.
difference between enjoying something as a moment and wanting
Right.
that moment to stay around and grasping that moment.
Right. Exactly. That's the total difference. And then that's also how jhana works too. Because even when you get into spiritual states of happiness that is totally wholesome and pure, right? There's a difference between appreciating that and wanting it to stay, as Grant just mentioned. And this is going to decide whether the jhana actually evolves and takes you to um, ultimate happiness, or whether it quickly goes away and like uh, you're just sad that it's over now, right? But anyways,
That old trick. That old trick.
yeah, that old
Keeps-
trick. No,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure
yeah.
anyone who's managed to get into jhana definitely is either a genius or has ran into this problem. Like I don't know, maybe you're like a jhana prodigy and like you never had that problem. But for most of us who manage to get into jhana, the first problem is getting pooped right out of it, and then going right back into sorrow, lamentation, and despair because you've been to heaven and now you realize how bad hell really is, right? So that some people can call this a dark night of the soul or something. Like you've been to like the heights, the mountaintop, and then but you don't know how, you're not established in it and you don't know how to get back there because you didn't even know how you got there. You just wound up there spontaneously. So that's why we practice cultivating the mind and why we practice Buddhism, because we actually find out how to intentionally get there and stay there whenever we want, because it comes from the end of delusion and like the clarity and understanding of our own mind. But let me continue with the sutta. Right. So the next one is going to be hate. So why does hate arise? And once arisen, it increases and grows. You should say the feature of harshness. When you apply the mind irrationally to the feature of harshness, hate arises. And once arisen, increases and grows. This is the cause, this is the reason why hate arises. And once arisen, it increases and grows. So I guess so some of these translations, it leaves room for interpretation, right? Like the feature of harshness. What does that mean exactly?
One of the ways I think about the feature of harshness is I think about perhaps a certain way that I entertain a perception of pressure. Okay, so when I'm feeling pressured to do something or other, if I look at that and I develop and cultivate a perception of harshness, then all of a sudden I'm reactive towards whatever Dhamma is arising within my experience. And yet if I accept that non-discriminatorily, just with no discrimination, no perception of harshness, or even better, if I do a little replacement, replace it with a perception of lightness, then we're really cooking. But a perception of harshness, to me, this is something that we generate in response to contact at one of the sense doors when we don't guard the mind.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So it's like some sort of tension in the body, some sort of agitation, harshness, heaviness, right? Pressure, feeling localized, feeling imprisoned, feeling pressurized. So this tension in the body, um, this is the feature of harshness. And when you apply the mind irrationally to this feature, hate increases. So if you've ever been really angry in a fit of rage, right? It's because you're like getting more and more agitated, more and more harshness, more and more pressure, more and more constriction. And this is like clenching your fist on a hot coal and just burning it when you could just let go. So the idea is to realize, yikes, ow, this harshness is hot. Let me so you have to, so when you see the pain of it, you see the danger of it, then you're going to let go of that harshness naturally. It just seems like the natural thing to do, right? Effortless acceptance. But the next one would be delusion. And once arisen, it increases and grows. Why? When you apply the mind irrationally. So irrational application of the mind. That's the only cause. So the other two included irrational application of the mind, but to a specific direction. But delusion as a whole, this is why it encompasses the other two, because it's just irrational application of the mind. So directing your mind to things which are unfit for attention. So the Buddha constantly says this. He categorically says there's a right direction of mind and a wrong direction of mind. There's only two kinds of thoughts, wholesome and unwholesome thoughts. It's one or the other. There's no in between. So every moment is an opportunity to go in the right direction or the wrong direction. And this is going to determine whether your presently arisen suffering subsides or and the flip-flop, or whether suffering that's not there arises because your mind trails off into a unwholesome direction. And if this is going to happen for everybody who starts practicing, and if you get even 5 minutes per hour of wholesome mind, that's good. Even a minute. If you can do a minute, an hour where you're only in a wholesome state of mind, you're making good progress, right? So it's like you want to just kind of start the fire and like kindle it and nourish it, and eventually it'll grow and grow. And you'll find yourself to be happier and happier. This happiness can be stabilized, right? I mean, we're gonna go through ups and downs, right? But they quickly change. Everything flows through faster because like there's no clinging, there's no stickiness to the emotions. It's like, yeah, I can experience emotions, like all the full range of emotions, but they don't stick to me as myself. They just arise, appear, dissipate. But that came with a lot of practice, and I've seen people, and effective practice, right? You can actually practice a lot, but if you're not practicing right, you can get nowhere fast.
Yes.
But if you practice efficiently, if you practice according to the teachings of the Buddha, it can be very fast. Like canonically for Sariputta, it only took him 2 weeks to go through all the jhanas and realize nirvana. Like Sariputta met the Buddha, and it's like, okay, 2 weeks later that he's fully enlightened. And like, and just to be clear, I don't recommend thinking about attainments, thinking you're going to become attained, or ever claiming an attainment. I don't recommend that at all. But I use attainments as a way to brighten my mind and inspire inspiration to practice, right? So it's just how you use things. Something can be used, it's just a tool, right? If you use it wrong, it's going to create judgment, comparison, even more delusion, right? A sense of self. Or you can use it in the right direction, and you can be like, if I'm happy right now, I am an arhat right now. Right? If I have no greed, hatred, and delusion in this moment, I'm an arhat. But who is me to be an arhat, right? An arhat is just the liberated mind, the nature of mind without in the absence of greed, hatred, and delusion. An arhat is not a person, right? And the arhat doesn't have a body-mind address. It's simply reality, and the knowledge and vision of reality as it actually is. And it's the same reality for everybody. Everybody is that reality. So it's like to claim this person is an arhat based off what? Based off your imagination, or claim yourself as an arhat based off what? Based off the past, your recollection of the past, or your prediction of the future. Because I can say for a fact that I'm happy right now, but I can't say for a fact that I'll be happy forever into the future because I'm not experiencing the future, right? The future is a concept in my mind. So I just went on that side tangent because I see a lot of people in Buddhist communities really obsessed with attainments. And I don't think I don't think we should throw the baby out with the bathwater. But if you use it in the right way, it can be a very powerful practice tool.
One of the very powerful practice tools I hear you talking about, Scott, is the idea that the mind is worthy of gifts. When we see firsthand that the mind is worthy of gifts, there's no question. The cheetah gives it gifts.
Right. So that's the idea of in Buddhism of being a noble is the way that an arhat just means noble one. And a noble one in the Buddhist teaching, or the Buddhist teaching, is just somebody who's worthy of gifts. So if you recognize your self-worth, that you hold yourself as a noble, you walk into the room like you own the place, you start to develop that attitude of nobility, right? That I am worthy of this, right? Most people live their lives feeling like an imposter. They don't feel like they belong. But if you walk into places like you're noble with a noble state of mind, and it's not arbitrary, because you are practicing to have a pure state of mind. And when you practice to have a pure state of mind, you're a noble person. It's noble to practice Buddhism. It's noble to practice coming out of suffering. So yeah, to view yourself as a noble, it's very empowering, and I recommend it. But if you're trying to convince other people that you're enlightened, you're probably falling into some traps, right? An enlightened person doesn't care if other people think they're enlightened, right? No thanks. You can have your enlightenment. I'd rather be happy. I'm good without it. I don't need enlightenment, right? Who's the more enlightened person in that scenario? But yeah.
That's
Okay,
a really good point, because it's a middle path with this, isn't it?
Middle
Between
path. Yeah.
becoming attached to the attainments, or thinking the attainments are somehow a distraction, and sort of putting yourself down at that point, going, yeah, but I'm not there yet, isn't it? So it's getting the balance, and it's such a fine balance, because you can, it's, you never quite, balancing is always about movement. You're always correcting when you're on one foot, you're always just moving. So you're never going to be right there, but you got to know where the point is and feel it when you're there.
Yeah.
And and then if you go too far, like I have, you're over
you're going to fall to one way or the other.
I'm back up again. Yeah, but you've described it really well. That's my experience of trying to keep the balance point between becoming overinflated and becoming down. That balance point is so important.
Exactly. There is a middle way. Yeah, no, that's a really good nugget of wisdom. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it's like it is a balancing act. And like the more you do the practice balance, the better you get at it and becomes second nature, right? When I first started snowboarding, I was falling over and eating the snow all the time. But now I'm balancing on the board like effortlessly. Practice is the same way. You keep practicing that balance, your body is going to learn balance. If you practice bodily relaxation, your body will start to intuitively know how to relax. right? So most people don't know how to relax. So that's part of the practice, is learning how to breathe and relax your body intentionally. And if you like start getting into a more and more relaxed state, it's going to become the habit. It's going to become the new like intuitive thing for your body to do. Just like how we can drive a car and be eating a sandwich, texting, drinking a coffee, and doing our makeup at the same time or something, right? Because we already intuitively know how to drive a car. But when you first start, you have to very mechanically and intentionally do meditation, and then it becomes not so much a thing, rather than it becomes something that you can intentionally fall into. So like you 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 know how to relax. It's weird. Like from a more advanced practice, the advice becomes so much simpler, and people may take the simplicity for granted, right? Yeah, just relax. Don't think about it. Don't think about things. And people will be like, oh, that's too simple. But it's the truth. but, but it's the truth.
Yes, sir.
But it's not easy. Yeah.
Right. And
yeah,
then
good.
okay, so I'm just gonna pick up where I left off. The irrational application of mind. And it is a continuous practice. So like even if you get really good, like you still have to do it. You know, no one is beyond fault. Like this is where people become like guru scandals and stuff, is they think they're at the end of the day, we're all human. So if you don't keep cleaning up your mind and guarding the mind, it's going to become naturally it's going to become polluted and destroyed. So it's a continuous practice. Um, when you apply the mind irrationally, delusion arises, and once arisen, it increases and grows. This is the cause, this is the reason why delusion arises. And once arisen, it increases and grows. And if they ask, what is the cause? What is the reason why greed doesn't arise? Or if it's already arisen, it's given up, you should say, the ugly feature of things. When you apply the mind rationally on the ugly feature of things, greed doesn't arise. Or if it's already arisen, it's given up. And this is the cause why greed doesn't arise. And then for love, it's what's the cause why hate doesn't arise? Or if it's already arisen, it's given up. It is said, the heart's released by love. The heart's released by love. When you apply the mind rationally on the heart's released by love, hate doesn't arise. Or if it's already arisen, it's given up. This is the cause why hate doesn't arise and why it's given up. Yeah, so when you direct the mind towards the power of love, like the happiness of love, you cultivate that love. It feels so much better than the hate that you're like naturally not going to want to do the opposite anymore. People think uh, people think hate feels good at first because it makes them feel powerful. I'm gonna hate this person. I'm gonna get all angry, and it's gonna make me big, bad, and strong, and a powerful person. So they think that it feels good at first, but then if they look at the experience of their body, they would realize how much pain they're actually in. Right. So once we practice mindfulness of our body, of our thoughts, we can notice the pain that we're in, that we're creating for ourselves. And so we can go in a direction of relief and happiness and love, because I think we've all experienced love before. And I think everybody knows how good it feels just to feel love, not to be attached to someone or something, but that just the pure experience of love. There's nothing better than it in the world. There really isn't. And this could be just looking at a sunset and just experience love of creation. Gratitude is another thing, another word for it. Just being in pure awe and gratitude of the beauty and the splendor of it all. right? And that may include specific people, but it's not dependent on them. It's not confined to them. It includes the totality of it all. Yeah, so this type of love is the spiritual type of love that's liberating. And if you look at the consequences of someone who develops this, they're going to end up being a better husband, a better father, a better wife, a better son, a better brother, and they're going to end up treating the people around them with more patience, more compassion, more understanding, right? If we're slow to anger, that's what makes a real man. If you cannot get angry when the stress is on, when somebody does step on your toes, if you can hold your composure, that's what makes you a real man. And like that's what makes you a noble one, right? That's the quality of a noble mind. And it's a practice, you know. we're all gonna get our buttons pushed from time to time, right? But how quick can you wake up out of it? Oh, I got my buttons pushed, right? There it is again. Haha. Let me just smile at that and laugh at it. Haha. How silly of me to get so worked up about that. Right? So the last one, what is the cause? What is the reason why delusion doesn't arise? Or if it's already arisen, it is given up. You should say rational application of the mind. When you apply the mind rationally, delusion doesn't arise. Or if it's already arisen, it is given up. This is the cause, this is the reason why delusion doesn't arise. So that's why it's very practical, it's very pragmatic, rational application of the mind. Everything we've been talking about, it's just if you're going to take a cost-benefit analysis of things and make a rational decision about the kinds of thoughts you want to think, the kinds of actions you're going to partake, which one causes more suffering and which one causes more happiness. It's a very rational cost-benefit analysis, right? But in ignorance, we're not using the frontal cortex part of our mind. We're not using the rational. We're intoxicated. We're blinded by passion, right? This is why the Buddha emphasizes dispassion, is because when we're dispassionate about things, we have a kind of holy indifference to the happenings of the world and life. Then we look at things with rationality and intelligence. We're going to make better decisions, right? These are the people, hopefully that's what makes a good leader, is someone who doesn't get past. If we look at like the greats throughout history and like Marcus Aurelius, for example, and you read some of his works, he was in as much power as he could be, but he saw the danger of that power. He saw the danger of that wealth and of all that wealth and ability over others, and he practiced being stoic. So he practiced being dispassionate about it all, and that's why he was such a great leader and one of the greatest philosophers of all time. If you read some of those meditations, it sounds very Buddhist, right?
Yeah.
So this truth is universal. It appears in different forms everywhere, but it's also polluted in different forms everywhere, right? So it's for those with wisdom to see for themselves the truth of it in their own experience. You know, I like to say the proof is in the pudding, right? If your practice is leading to happiness, then it's a good practice. If it's not, if it's making you miserable, then don't do that, I guess. All right. So, yeah, I'm going to open it up to anyone who wants to talk. That was the end of the sutta there.
Okay.
My pleasure. Yes.
Thank you, Scott.
It occurs to me after listening to that, some of the solutions in the world that we want to try and solve, the more we want to solve them from an ego point of view, the worse the problem gets. So we have to do something that seems counterintuitive, which is really focusing on developing ourselves to a point where we can truly be of benefit to others in a non-deluded way. And that leads to easy solutions to problems. That's my experience of using the Dharma in the world, is that things get a lot easier when you don't try and manipulate the world around you, but just go with what's in front of you. And suddenly everything gets a little bit better in your immediate environment and for the people that are with me as well.
Yeah,
so
and that's where life happens. Yeah.
I'm in a better state.
Yeah, the immediate environment, the people that you interact with, right? That's where it's done. Like, people who become world savers, right? Those are the people like Hitler. Like, they want to save the world, right? World savers instead of saving yourself, right? If you save yourself, you save the world. The teachings of the Buddha have never been about changing the world. It's only ever been about changing the mind. Because there's nothing other to the world than the mind. The only way we experience the world is by mind. So the world is how you see it. If you see you go into places and you see things from the light side, you see things from a bright side, you see things from a happy point of view, you're going to find out you're going to make a lot more friends that way. You're going to be more patient with people if you see the good in people and not all the ugly stuff. Right? You see, oh, he's just trying his best. We're all just trying our best. Right? We're either deluded to the point where our effort is just misallocated, but that person is still trying to be happy. They just don't know where to find it. And that's why I'm so grateful to stumble upon Buddhism and the teachers that I've had that were generous enough to teach me without even me paying them one dime. So I'm really grateful for that. And yeah, it's like the gift that keeps on giving. So I just come here and like share the joy and that sentiment. So thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. And if there's anything else that you guys want to talk about, I'm happy to continue. But it may have reached its natural conclusion, so that's okay too. All right, friends. Wonderful to have you. And
Thank you so
I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Nice to share together. See you again.
Yeah, it was good to hear you talk, Grant. Thanks for coming.
Keep coming, Grant. We love it. We'll see you guys soon.